Hello and welcome to the Bald and Bloviating podcast. I'm your bald host, Mookie. As you can now tell, we are actually doing this on video.
I'm balding too, actually. You can't tell from here, but
nice. And it's my favorite bloviating buddy, Mr. Ali Rizvi, over in Toronto, Canada, hanging on to America's hat with
I'm still trying to work here. Come in
dignity and grace.
The 51st state.
The 51st state. Welcome aboard the pod. And I'm excited because we spoke a little bit before the pod. And arguably for the first time, we could really get into an argument here.
Yes.
Sounds like we are diametrically at the opposite side of an issue, the issue pressing the Middle East right at this moment, the two-state solution between Israel and Palestine. As far as I understand it, Ali is thinking that it's got a shot at this point, that circumstances have arisen where the two-state solution is arguably, and I don't want to speak for you, more primed and more ready to rock than in decades. Do I get your position more or less correct?
You're right. Yeah. So I don't think that they're going to have that kind of conventional two-state solution. They've been talking about it a lot, but there has been a huge political realignment in the Middle East in the last few years that I think is making the conditions ripe for it. And I'll get into some of the details of
okay, but suffice to say, for strategically framing our conversation, you're seeing it right around the bend. Serious consideration for that mythical two-state solution.
Not right around the bend.
Once again, we could define the specifics. I just want to be clear about our conversation. You think it's looking good. It's looking better than it has in a long time.
Their conditions are more ripe now than they ever were before. There's fertile ground.
I think the exact opposite. So I want to applaud because we have been smelling our own intellectual farts now for years because we tend to agree. We might disagree on nuances and approaches, and we have clearly a different kind of mindset and focus, but we generally agree. And now it sounds like we disagree.
We disagree on this part of it. Yeah, right. And just for another context, we did have, you have our backgrounds are probably somewhat relevant here to the general public. You are a Jewish atheist, Jewish American atheist. I'm
I say agnostic.
Agnostic. Well, okay, yeah. So I'll also go with agnostic. I'm a Muslim Canadian agnostic, right? So we're both sort of in a similar boat in that way too.
Okay, and I'm going to do a shameless plug for my new science fiction novel for anyone listening and watching.
I have that, and it's downstairs.
And the transfinite reality engine. You're in for some thrills and spills, folks. So that's my shameless plant. I'm also tweeting the entire book in reverse on X.
Yeah.
And tune in for more. I am Jewish. I am Jewish by birth. Judaism, Jews, it's complicated with your religion, your tradition, your genetic makeup. If you go to 23andMe or any of those services, maybe not 23andMe anymore, they're going broke and they've probably already sliced and diced all your genetic information for the highest bidder. But genetically, culturally, if not traditionally, I am Jewish. So I think we should be transparent about that. However, I'm non-practicing, non-believing, and I have my own nuanced ideas about Israel, Zionism, the relationship between the Jews and the Palestinians et al. And we could go into that too. So
right. And I was raised in a Shia Muslim family. I grew up in Saudi Arabia, Libya, Pakistan. I didn't come to the Western world until I was 24. So, but same. We somehow, I don't know if we would have been talking if we were in any other part of the world, but here we are. Mookie Spitz is my
God,
closest friends, my guru. So,
yeah, and God's blessed the United States of America and Canada,
that's right.
the Western enlightened tradition since
Yeah.
the Renaissance, where critical thinking, open dialogue, diversity, religious freedom.
Well, yeah. I mean, with caveats like everywhere else, but
everywhere else, nobody and no place is perfect, but we are here to argue about whatever we want to and have listeners listen and express their own opinions. So we'd love to hear back from you. So suffice to say, with that setup, I'm a Jew, Ali's a Muslim, and we are talking the Middle East. We've talked about the Middle East in the past, mostly in agreement, and now we disagree. And we disagree about something critical to the past, present, and certainly the future of the entire region, which is this two-state solution. So do you want to tee it off by expressing why you feel the Middle East is now, at this moment, post October 7th, at this moment, when Israel has effectively neutralized all the proxies of Iran, at this moment, when Israel has neutralized most of the Iranian military and defense systems, killed most of their senior military leadership, and with the assistance of the United States, have pretty much taken out their major nuclear facilities. So please convince me and our listeners at this moment why Israel, who has never been more powerful in its 80-year existence than it is right now militarily, would even consider the whim of a two-state solution.
Great.
I'm all ears.
All right. So the reasons that you articulated right now about Iran having been weakened, I mean, they've been attacked, their nuclear facilities got attacked, and probably reasonably to a large extent obliterated by both Israel and the U.S. And they struck back in the same way they did after Soleimani was killed, in the same way that they have after, several, they just a ceremonial face-saving retaliation, warned ahead of time, the enemy that we're going to hit, we're not going to kill them. So just something to retain their reputation, showing dramatic weakness. And they've done this over and over and over again. And credit to Trump for calling out their bluff several times. And we know that now. And those are the exact reasons why I'm beginning to think that it's ripe. So whenever you have, you have a Spitz. You and I are negotiating. We're kind of on sort of like equal ground. I've got some balls, and I think that I've got the backing of this, Iran, and I'm going to come and fight you. And I've got Hezbollah, and I've got Hamas, and I've got the Houthis, and all this stuff. And I can come. I've got some firepower here that I can fight you. I can resist you with. You're coming at me. You're like, well, I'm a democracy here in the Middle East, and you have your whole power, the kind that Israel has. We're sort of, at least we think that we're on equal grounds and we have some negotiating power. What happens when that breaks down? When one side becomes asymmetrically powerful, as you said, as Israel has been, and the other side becomes just asymmetrically weakened to the point of near obliteration, like Hamas and Iran and everybody. When that happens, then usually one side becomes desperate. There's a lot of people, you've seen what's happened in Gaza. It's absolutely devastating. What's happened with the number of people who've been killed, all the videos that we've seen online of everything that's happening there. We're in a situation where a lot of Palestinians, the Palestinian people at least, right, are just like, okay, listen, we'll take what we can get. They did reject several deals that were offered to them before because they didn't like one thing or another in it. Sometimes it was about right of return. Sometimes it was about Jerusalem. It was about all kinds of different things. Right now, there's just this asymmetry where one side is unbelievably strong. The other side is on the verge of extinction. and they're saying we'll take what we can get. So that is the first thing that keeps it right.
Okay, let me put a pin on it for our listeners too, and just so I make sure I'm hearing what you're saying and
Right.
repeating it to you so we have clarity. You're taking my argument that Hamas, Hezbollah, pretty much the Houthis, and Iran itself have been zapped like
We
never
agree on that.
before.
Yeah.
We're on the same page with the hegemony of Israel, the unprecedented military superiority of Israel over its enemies in the region. We're good on that. Now, your take on that is because of this, the Palestinian people, and specifically Hamas, now is perhaps ripened for greater flexibility in their capacity to negotiate. Is that what you're getting?
Yes, for almost all of that except the Hamas thing. So Hamas recently, I think there's this one Hamas leader who lives in Egypt who came out with this whole thing. It's like, oh, they can kill 20,000 more, 100,000 more. They're just kind of volunteering Palestinian lives without their consent and saying we'll sacrifice whatever we need to do to win this thing in the end. A lot of Palestinians are not up for that. Some of the leadership there is just not up for that either. So Hamas and the Palestinians don't exactly have the same thing. We're talking about Hamas using them as human shields in some places. I think they use the entire population. Basically.
Yeah, but that's been the case for decades. So
right.
Let's zero in on how the situation has changed.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the way that it's changed is that there is a sense of desperation. We'll take what we can get. This you're seeing with Palestinians in the West Bank. This you're seeing with Palestinians in Gaza who just want everything to end. You're seeing this with the Israelis too. Now that's one thing. The other thing is
time out. You're now going from the Palestinian zeitgeist, which you are saying was one of abject defeat,
right,
and pain and suffering, forced starvation.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, they're in bad shape in Gaza, and they're in bad shape in a lot of the West Bank as well.
Yeah.
So that I'm with you to a certain extent. Now, this idea of what the people think and what their leadership is doing are two completely different things.
Correct.
But I'll table that for a while on the Palestinian side. You did state, however, that the Israelis have had enough.
Right. So and the Israelis...
I'm not so sure. So, and once again, we're talking about polling, we're talking about general attitude, we're talking about a large population that's diverse. So I will agree that a certain percentage of the Israeli population is hating Netanyahu to this day, even if now's his moment of glory, especially with the Iranian attacks.
Mm-hmm.
And a certain percentage of the Israeli population has been favoring a two-state solution. I call these people the Haaretz crowd. The Haaretz newspaper is like the New York Times meets MSNBC of Israel. Very humanistic, very lefty, very pro-Palestinian in the sense of, can't we just all get along already?
Yeah, it's the Tony Jewett side
this percentage of the population, okay, they've been there the whole time.
Yeah.
But I would just want to qualify when you state that Israel has had enough. I think that that's a blanket assessment, which might not be accurate.
Okay, so oh, wait, where did you go? What happened? Oh, there you are. There, sorry. I lost you for a second. But, so, okay, fine. There are different polls, and from what it seems, there are different results. And again, I'm going to quickly say this. I will go ahead and consider your position here, and I'll use that as a premise, okay? But just to flag and pin for later, it depends on the position. The Hezbollah operation with the pagers had a lot of support. The Iranian operation had over 80% support in the Israeli population. The Gaza operation still enjoys support in some polls, not so much in others. Netanyahu's approval ratings they're not everybody's saying that they're confusing it with like their support for this operation or that operation, but they're not. They're still less than 50%. So it depends on which aspect of what Israel's doing, because Israel's kind of all over the place right now, right, doing all kinds of things. And people have different opinions about the different sort of aspects of this. But I will concede that there is a premise that this, after October 7th, we're not going to take this shit anymore. Everyone hates us anyway. If they're telling us we're just going to assume the role, we're going to make sure that this is just never again. So I agree with that, okay, for the Israeli population. But here's another factor that I'm going to go with. And this is where I want to get to. In addition to Iran being gone, and let's just reiterate, Iran had a military army, right? Hezbollah. They had Assad. Syria, Assad is in Moscow in exile, right? Hezbollah's badly weakened. The Houthis are badly weakened. Hamas is, very badly weakened. I mean, there's arguments about their ideology and all of that. You can't bomb that out of people. Obviously, that's a separate argument. But yes, for our purposes, what we're talking about is badly weakened. There's another factor, though. Iran, the Shia part of the equation in the Middle East, has been weakened. But on the other hand, you've got the Saudis, which is an economic powerhouse in the Middle East, more so than anything else. Saudis have more unconditional support from the United States than Israel ever did. There's a UAE. So all of these big economic superpowers in the Middle East, right? There is a strategic realignment where they hate Iran more than they hate Israel. They want relationships with Israel.
Correct. That's the foundation of the Abrahamic Accords that Trump and Jared facilitated. So just in a nutshell, Trump and Jared realized the obvious, that you can't make everybody happy, because if you do that, you're going to piss everyone off. So they picked sides. They picked Israel and the Sunni side of the Arab Street at its power nexus. So they facilitated diplomatic relationship, unprecedented, between the State of Israel, Saudi Arabia, UAE, and Bahrain, right? Am I getting this right?
Correct.
And it was under the premise that we're going to throw the Palestinians under the bus. They're not going to participate in this at all. And we have a common enemy. That's the Shia side of the street, en toto for the most part, specifically Assad in Syria, who's allied with Russia anyway, and Iran. Evil Iran. And they went for it, and they got it. Now, once again, the prerequisite for that success almost implicitly was throwing the Palestinians under the bus. They had no say in anything that went on, and Saudi Arabia went for it because they figured, what are they going to do?
That was before the current Gaza operation, okay?
Yeah, I think it's still, but we can talk about that too.
So here's what's different. So first of all, Iran is Shia. A lot of the Shia people have supported Hamas. Hamas is Sunni, all right? Hezbollah Shia, and the Houthis are Shia. Hamas is Sunni.
And Qatar is the big benefactor and supporter.
Qatar's a big Sunni power. They just gave a jet to Trump, and Trump really likes him.
And talk about playing both sides. I just want to point out that Saudi Arabia for decades has been the champ of playing both sides, east and west, and up and down.
Oh, everybody knows that. Now here's the thing.
I give points now to Qatar. They're really gunning it.
Yeah, they're all like that. This is what I'm trying to get to. Like, there's a huge political realignment that I think that even the people who know.
I'm not in any disagreement, but I think that your focus is erroneous, because you are putting too much creds on the Arab side of the street when the key decision maker is Israel in general and a right-wing government in particular.
Yeah. So I don't think
about the Arab street getting flex and being tied into the war.
Yeah.
But I don't think it matters. But
I don't think that that's. This is where we're gonna, I think, start disagreeing, because I think even until now, what we're saying about Iran, everything, at least our premise, like, we do agree on the premise, right? But this is where I'm going to start disagreeing with you a little bit. So,
please, I'm trying to precipitate that, which is, I don't care from this argument's point of view what Saudi Arabia thinks or any of the Arab street thinks. not because I'm Jewish or I'm pro-Israel. I have a very nuanced, combative view of Israel, as you know, right?
Yeah.
I get as much hate from Zionists as I do from, you know,
Oh yeah, same
terrorists.
here. I'm both anti-Semitic and
But my
Islamophobic. We
point
both are.
though
Yeah.
is Israel has the power, and Israel ain't gonna do it.
All right.
So,
So
you know,
that's where we disagree. So something
that's
amazing
what I'm
happened.
getting to. Let's
I know.
disagree.
Yeah. So one thing that happened during the Obama time, very very quietly, and this is when the whole people think the whole fracking thing was a big sort of right wing. It actually happened during Obama. He opened up oil in the U.S. The U.S. became oil independent. It was not as dependent on the Saudis for the first time during the Obama phase. Then it wasn't as dependent. It was basically self-sufficient. That's when the transition was happening in Saudi Arabia. Vision 2030 came around. MBS came into power. All that stuff happened. And now Vision 2030 means that Saudi Arabia is opening up. Women are driving. Metallica's playing shows there. Guns N' Roses is playing there.
They bought the PGA.
They've got the PGA, the F1, everything. They've got like Jake Paul and all these guys like boxing and shit there. And so it's fucking like it's completely different from the place that I grew up in. And that's happening because they know they can't just be the Taliban with a whole bunch of oil anymore, because the oil is not gonna be a big thing for too long. So they want to enter the civilized world. That is related to what they want to do with the Abraham Accords. They do want to have a big economic sort of alliance throughout the peninsula and throughout the Middle East.
No disagreement here, none.
Israel is part of that. But after October 7th, right, what happened was that deal was about to happen. It was about to happen. Then October 7th happened. Hamas knew what it would do. And the Saudis, as much as none of these Arab countries really love the Palestinians. However, the people who are Sunni, right, they will lose the support of their people. There's going to be a lot of unrest within their populations if they throw the Palestinians under the bus. So they can't do it.
Time out.
Yeah.
I need to stop you there because it's integral to your argument, and I think it's not entirely correct. And it's not entirely correct based on historical precedent, because the Abrahamic Accords were initiated with the premise that the Palestinians essentially were irrelevant. Early
Pre-October 7th.
mentions of any deal, kind of proto-Abrahamic Accords, placed the Palestinians as prerequisites to any kind of deal between Israel and any Arab country.
So there's a lot of other stuff that's changed. Okay, I used to write for the HuffPost. Back in 2009, I wrote an article talking about how Democrats and Republicans will always support Israel because 44%, in the 2003 poll, 44% of Americans, right, largely Christian evangelicals, believe that is where Jesus is going to come back.
Yeah, Mike Huckabee is ambassador right now.
Right.
He's protecting Israel so it could be a landing strip for Jesus when he comes.
That's right.
That's the only reason, folks. The evangelicals are all hanging out, they're fist pumping Bibi. Because the Jews, my people, are protecting the landing strip for Jesus. That's the only reason I'm here.
That used to be the situation. Okay. Now so you got to bear with me for a little bit and just let me make this case. Okay. So until in 2022, right after that, Bibi came into power. Everybody hates Bibi. Trump actually hates Bibi at a personal level.
Time out. I got to stop you with these declarative statements that you're making because they're not, just in all fairness, they're not correct. You can't say something like everybody hates Bibi.
So
they don't. A huge percentage of the Israeli population.
Oh, no, I'm not. I'm sorry.
Adore Bibi.
No, you're right. You're right about that. I'm going to clear it up. I mean, when it comes to the world.
Let's speak. Both of us hate superlatives and fake news and bullshit online. So let's try to speak more.
Yeah, sure. So, world leaders among the world leader community, right? It's kind of it's been reported very widely in the Atlantic in all kinds of different, people who have talked.
Legacy media.
There have been hot mic recordings that world leaders, even in the U.S., Democrats, Republicans, they just really find him to be. They don't like him that much. They don't like him.
I agree with
Okay,
you.
so
World leaders hate BBs.
So in 2022, right, 42% of Americans had an unfavorable view of Israel, right, and the rest of them had a favorable view. For the very first time, 2025, there's a Pew poll that came out 2 months ago where 53% of Americans, not just young Americans, 53% view Israel unfavorably. In Europe, okay, it's between Spain, the Netherlands, and Sweden, around 75 to 78% have a negative view. And around 70% of global respondents expressed a lack of confidence in Netanyahu. They didn't like him. So this is something that has never happened before. I grew up thinking, I was like, I never thought this would happen. But
first off, hold on. I just need to qualify. I will agree with the Israeli paranoia that most people are anti-Semitic and most people hate Israel. All right. It's a blanket statement, but it's just fucking true. All right.
Yeah, it is. In the Arab world, it's true.
So what you're saying is that there was a high favorability index for Israel before, and it's less so now.
Before October 7th.
I kind of call bullshit on that because people have hated Israel and hated Jews forever, in all fairness. Not everybody, but a big percentage. And what's moved the needle, and I'm agreeing with you, is arguably the 100 asymmetrical reaction of Israel after October 7th. That was nail in the coffin of any hope that people would take a more sympathetic approach or attitude toward the state of Israel specifically and Jews in general. We have an uptick of anti-Semitism. People are hating on Israel, and especially, and I'm reinforcing your point, liberals. Israel has lost the American liberals.
But they're losing a lot of conservatives too.
And to a certain extent. The Tucker Carlson non-interventionalist kind of.
Right. The non-interventionalists, the Steve Bannons, all of this.
I'm agreeing with you, but I just want to qualify it is that there was a benchmark or a baseline of hating on Israel and the Jews.
Right. So this is something that has happened right now. So there is a dislike overall. Like even I mean, you read my book. I always said two things can be true. That yes, what they're doing is settlement expansion a good thing? No, it's ridiculous. It's insane. It's biblical. There's no rational secular justification for it. The occupation is immoral. All of that.
There's strategic justification.
Right. But and this is prior. This is when I wrote my book, like almost 10 years ago.
Right.
So
atheist Muslim, everybody. This guy wrote the Atheist Muslim. Book plan. Excellent read. Still relevant. More relevant now.
Yeah. Thank you.
Before.
So
now, press. Get some.
Yeah. So I also in that wrote that two things can be true. That yes, the occupation, I do not support it, but at the same time, I grew up in that region. A lot of those people hate Jews, and any excuse that Israel gives them, right, to go out and manifestly just sort of express that anti-Semitism, they will do, right? Now the thing has become very blurred, right? So there've been a tremendous amount of images that have come out of Gaza. Right. At that time, we didn't have that. People didn't have social media and cameras on their cell phones and Starlink and all that stuff. Now, a lot of these things have come out. The younger generation, even a lot of the Jewish younger generation in the diaspora,
100%.
Has been lost. So what Netanyahu has done is incredible. Like what he did was he decided that he's like, well, I got support from Democrats and Republicans. It's pretty unwavering. They're both solidly on my side, but I want to cut that in half. So let me just snub the Democrats, go in. Wait, hold on. Let me finish.
I'll let you, but I'm just kind of like, that's not what he's thinking.
That's not what he's thinking.
No.
I'm not talking about what he's thinking. I'm talking about what happened in the last 10 or 15 years. So comes in, snubs Biden, and when he was vice president, Obama
does it. It's true. Right.
That speech to Congress, brings the Republicans over, pisses off the Democrats, and now he's
Yeah.
got like that Israel becomes a partisan issue. It was always a bipartisan thing that had bipartisan support. Now it's a partisan issue. He's created clefts between the Israeli population, right? He created clefts. That's what he's been struggling for until October. I think that's one of the reasons that all of the, he's struggling for his own political future, right? Gone through like loads and loads of elections in the same year. Then he goes ahead in between diasporic Jews and Israeli Jews. Now there's a cleft between them too, right? So there's a lot of things that he has done over time that many people, and then he's pissed off a lot of world leaders. So now you have the situation where Israel does not have the kind of support from allies that they did. Saudi Arabia, Qatar, UAE, on the other hand, if you saw Trump's recent trip there, they do. Now, here's the thing with Trump. Does Trump like Netanyahu? Trump is a transactional guy, all right? Trump will throw Netanyahu under the bus when he wants to, which he has, okay? And then other times he'll praise him to the moon if he feels like he's getting something out of it, all right? He's going and accepting jets from Qatar, luxury jets from Qatar. He's going to Saudi Arabia and talking about, he's like, oh, this MBS. You know how much I loved it? I can't explain to you how much I loved it. Did you see that? Did you see that? Okay, that's how he's talking about the Saudis. Right now, there's a Sunni alliance with the Israelis. They want to do the Abrahamic Accords. This guy wants a legacy and he wants to win the Nobel Prize. Okay, and if what he wants to do, the transaction with the Netanyahu and Israel doesn't go the way that he wants to, he will balk and he will move back. I mean, that's the only thing that's predictable.
He will what? He will what?
I'd probably use why he'll recede from the situation. Like he'll go back and forth until he gets it. Like there is a Trump.
Gets what? Please be specific. Trump gets what?
Okay, so Trump wants peace.
He wants the Nobel Peace Prize.
He wants the Nobel Peace Prize. He wants to solve
Bibi himself suggested it. Bibi nominated Trump for the Nobel Peace Prize.
Bibi gave him a letter. He wrote a letter to the Nobel, which is a lot cheaper than the luxury jet.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So he did that, and he said, "I'm going to nominate him for the Nobel Peace Prize." But the thing is that can Netanyahu out? Do you know what do you call it? What's a term for kissing Trump's ass? Can he out-flatter what the Arab leaders are doing? The Arab leaders, the way that they kiss Trump's ass is unprecedented.
Everyone is kissing Trump's ass. Everyone.
They need to, right? For the tariffs, for everything.
That just goes with the show, right. Okay? They're kissing the ring. So,
yeah. But here's the way I see it playing out. Here's the way I see it playing out. Okay, so right now, and the reason I'm saying the thing is right. First of all, you have this massive asymmetry of power. You have like Israel's super powerful. Iran's gone. Sunnis want a relationship with Israel. Okay, but they also have huge Sunni populations, right? That they can't. The Saudi and the Israeli deal at October 7th, when that thing happened, was kiboshed at that time, right? It was about to happen.
That was Sinwar's intent for launching October 7th. That was a big motivation.
That was their intent because
mission accomplished.
Because they know that Saudi cannot make a deal with Israel, right? Even if they want to, even if they hate the Palestinians, they can't make a deal with Israel unless they address this situation. Okay, so there are two reasons.
They made a deal with Israel, and they didn't address the situation.
Before, the Saudis have not formalized it, and they're still talking about it. Right now, they're closer to it than ever. But here's what's happening. Okay, so Trump is going to favor Saudi Arabia over Israel every time. He will, because there is an economic relationship there. The U.S. gives Israel money, okay? With Saudis, they benefit, right? They have an oil relationship. Saudi Arabia saves them money, right? Because gas in the U.S. is around half the price as it is in anywhere else in the world, okay? In Europe and everywhere else except for Canada, right?
It's a petrodollar is what we're really talking about.
It's a petrodollar, right?
We're talking about the petrodollar. And if Saudi decides, fuck you, we're going to do rubles, then we're fucked. So it's a petrodollar relationship.
Israel does not have that. Israel does not contribute anything from a transactional perspective to the United States. They don't. The U.S., they need the U.S. for defense, for its military equipment, for all that.
What we're talking about here is like, are we right now? Let's contextualize this conversation in real time, which I think.
Do you know where I'm getting at, though? Are you
I
getting?
know where you're getting at, but what I'm saying is like, let's contextualize it just for clarity's sake. We're on the brink of an inevitable and imminent ceasefire between Hamas and Israel. That
We had one
writing is
before.
that writing is on the wall. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, but we had one before too, right?
I know, but that's my point. Let's take this one
Yeah,
step at a time.
absolutely.
Yeah,
100%.
yes or no? We're on an
Yes.
imminent and inevitable trajectory, probably within maybe even a week, 2 weeks. We are looking at a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas.
Correct.
Yes?
I agree.
That?
Yes.
All right, good, because I agree completely. And I bring that up because that addresses your immediate point. Trump is transactional and Trump needs his ass kissed. All right? So transactional Trump is going to get some spelunking from Yahoo, all right, in the next week or two by acquiescing to not blowing up Palestinian children and starving the population. That's going to be Netanyahu's thank you, Donald, for bombing the Iranian sites. Thank you, Donald, for being a big unconditional supporter of Israel. And thank you, Donald, for to be continued. We're probably going to attack Iran again. Okay?
Yeah.
That's the current situation, and you and I are aligned. Is that correct?
Yeah, we're correct. Yeah.
Now, but what we're talking about here and where our paths diverge, all right, is this idea that we are closer to some kind of two-state solution.
Right.
And that's where I'm way off the reservation from you. So I think transactional Trump is going to get his ass kissed. There's going to be a ceasefire. But to your point, it's probably not going to last. And the chaos that is in Gaza and the chaos that's going on in the West Bank too, in my humble opinion, will only continue and likely get worse.
And where does that end up?
It doesn't matter for the Netanyahu and the right-wing government. It's irrelevant. As long as Hamas is neutralized, they don't give a shit about the Palestinian population. Gaza can go to hell as far as they're concerned for now. And the West Bank must be annexed completely.
Okay.
That's, so, I think, their goal. It has been vocalized by Smotrich, by Netanyahu himself, and, this is a key point, by Mike Huckabee, the ambassador of the U.S. to Israel, has articulated out of his face that the West Bank should be annexed and that Israel should be unified as a singular state. Out of the mouth of the U.S. ambassador to Israel. Netanyahu's existence, political existence, is contingent on appeasing his right-wing flank. His right-wing flank was barred from the government only 5 years ago, many of them with criminal warrants for being terrorists, and now they're running the police department, they're running the foreign ministry, and they're overseeing the West Bank. So the state in Israel now, regardless of what the population thinks, the state in Israel now, regardless of the American president, is now more powerful militarily than it's ever been before, with a right-wing government which is even more extreme than ever before. And to me, it's absolutely unimaginable that they would even sniff the idea of a two-state solution. So why would they possibly concede any power to the Palestinians in any way under these conditions?
Okay, because
that's my argument.
That's a question. Okay, so right now, European countries, Canada, everyone they want to pressure Netanyahu to have a two-state solution. That's one thing. He's not going to listen to them. To your point, He'll be like, fuck you guys. We don't care.
I'm glad
You
we're
guys,
on video so I can do stuff.
yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
I'm not jerking you off. I'm just jerking
Yeah.
off the Europeans who think
I,
this is
I,
going to
I
make a
agree.
difference.
This is Netanyahu doesn't. Okay, so there's that. The other thing is that in the U.S., right, disdain for what Israel's doing among the population is increasing. People do have to win elections in the U.S. There's the wave of populism happening right now. There's a lot of that. So that also you can do the jerk off motion to. I don't think Netanyahu cares about that either. Netanyahu doesn't. Okay. Now,
and the people keeping Netanyahu empowered on it's a parliamentary democracy with a weakened judiciary. Okay.
Right. So now I'm gonna take you back to the Balkans in the 90s. Okay, remember the war that was happening there?
Yeah, I know where you're going with this.
Go ahead. Yeah, and then you know where I'm going. Okay, so
yeah.
When you had a world where you had this sort of like military industrial complex, everyone was trying to kick each other's ass and bomb each other and everything. That's how you made money. That was a big thing. Now those things cause economic instability. When you have social political instability, that it has economic consequences. So when the European Union was actually forming in its current form today, the euro currency was being developed. People had been getting killed in Bosnia for years, but nobody did anything. But around that time, it also happened, they said it was a distraction for the Monica Lewinsky thing, but whatever. Clinton came in. You remember that, right? So they went and they bombed it.
Clinton's bombing.
Bombing. They fixed that shit.
Bombing the Serbs.
Right. So they fixed that shit right up so the euro could take off and so the European Union can happen. Right now, Saudi Arabia, the UAE, okay, Saudi Arabia is opening up with Vision 2030. They want to form an alliance with Israel. Iran is basically obliterated, and they want to do this. And there's this hotbed of political instability there. Okay, there's basically, arguably, according to Smotrich, ethnic cleansing happening there. Okay, the ICJ is calling it a plausible genocide, whether you agree it's a genocide or not. But there's a lot of terrible things happening.
No, I don't like that term because then everything's a genocide. Anytime people's being abused and you call it a genocide. But when
that's why I'm quoting people and I'm not
starving out an entire population. I don't know, man.
Yeah, I'm not saying. I think that when you're starving out deliberately, sort of like starving out a population, I think that qualifies as it. But anything before. But anyway, we're not gonna get into those semantics right now.
But again, we're in violent agreement about all this shit.
They want to. So there needs to be for there to be this like amazing Middle Eastern political and economic realignment there. Okay, that cannot happen when there's a political hotspot. If Israel continues to just keep these people under occupation, constantly keep on bombing them, constantly trying to get them out, annexing the West Bank. You have these settlers, like the settlers going around and burning the houses of Palestinian Christians, right, in the West Bank. When they keep on doing that, these kinds of things are going to infuriate, people around them. It's going to cause that's going to be a big hindrance. The U.S. is going to favor Saudis, and it's going to favor Qataris, believe it or not, Qataris too, and the UAE a lot more than Israel because it doesn't get anything from Israel. It only gives to Israel. It gets things from the Saudis. The Saudis directly.
Right, so let's not forget I'm once again to remind our audience, I am Jewish. Let's not forget the Jewish lobby.
Yeah, right? No, I understand.
Highly influential in the United States. Let's not forget 78 years of precedent, right? Even though it is kind of at the tipping point.
It's at the tipping point. So it is.
And let's not forget basically a bridgehead for testing and utilizing almost all of America's armaments. Okay.
5 years ago and today, what would you say about the influence of the Jewish lobby on all aspects? Let's say, but before, the Democrats went and spoke to AIPAC. The Republicans went and spoke to AIPAC. Now, even among the Republicans, there are people, at the high, like Trump's guys, like the Steve Bannons of the world, Tucker Carlson's, a lot of these like big people who were.
Yeah, but they're not interventionists in general. They didn't want us to attack Iran. They're sick of Ukraine.
They're not just not interventionists. They're against what Israel's doing in Gaza.
Yeah, but they're against Ukraine, and they were against bombing Iran.
They are.
So
they're against all that. So there is.
It's not just we shouldn't support Israel. It's an ideology of American no more dumb wars.
Right.
Which
And
probably
Trump
a
was
good
the guy
idea.
too.
That's a,
Trump was also that guy who was not supposed to interfere in these things. There's a lot of criticism about why the U.S. is sending money to Israel and sending money to the Ukraine, right? When we're not getting anything, everybody's thinking transactionally. MAGA is transactional. We're not getting anything from these people. When Saudi Arabia, they can make a decision and really they can make one decision. It's a dictatorship. It's not like there's parliamentary committees agreeing on shit. You go negotiate with one guy. It's like, oh, for you, my friend, I decrease oil price. It's all okay. But like you can't, like, these guys can make one decision and drive unemployment up in the United States. Okay, now that would happen in consequences.
I'm not disagreeing with the trend line that you're painting here. The question is timing. Are we talking 2035, 2050, when it's going to reach the tipping point? That's why I want to contextualize it.
Yeah,
where we are now, and realistically talk about things based on who's in power and the power dynamics as they exist now.
So when
we can't make an asteroid is going to fucking hit the planet. We don't know. I agree with you. Israel's falling out of favor. Chaos is bad. But what I'm trying to articulate is it has a powerful right-wing government that's going to do everything it can to accomplish.
I totally hear you, but I'm just saying that against those forces, there are these other forces. The U.S., well, right now, when we talked the last time we had our thing, we talked about two things. We talked about an independent Palestinian state, okay? And we talked about security for Israel. You need guarantees and security for Israel. The way that I see it playing out right now is Trump, the transactional, legacy-oriented guy who wants a Nobel Peace Prize, right? And where Jared Kushner is actually better friends with MBS than he is with Netanyahu, who's his family friend now, right? You have that whole paradigm, right? And you have an international community, including Trump and the American population, right, that is going to pressure Trump to get Trump.
Ali, what is the outcome?
I'm getting to that. I'm getting to that.
I'm just saying it's like we're in agreement about all of this stuff.
What happens
I think our listeners are agreeing too, and I don't mean to cut you. I just want to get to it. It's like there's
the way that I see it.
There's a ceasefire that's going to happen. It might not last.
Ceasefire, sure. It may not last. The Saudis, the Emiratis, the Qataris, right? They all get together. They get Trump on their side to talk to Israel, saying that we're going to do this Abrahamic Accords. We're going to complete this whole thing. It'd be fucking beautiful. We're going to solve this whole issue. But what we need is we do need an independent Palestinian state. Now, what it'll look like, we'll talk about in a second. But in exchange for that, the Saudis, the Qataris, the Egyptians, like, we will take care and make sure that there's security. We guarantee security for Israel in exchange for the Palestinian state. And I think that that's a very, very plausible thing. It's something that they're already talking about.
2050.
We're all the artificial superintelligence is going to taken over the world.
Yes, the AGIs aren't going to care.
AGIs already coming.
Vision of the Middle East.
Right. So that's already going to be gone. But look, I actually think that that's possible even sooner. Now, here's something else that happened that's interesting. This is what I'm talking about, what the Palestinian state might look like. Netanyahu's strategy of divide and rule for the Palestinians has been very successful. Right, the West Bank people, they hate Hamas. The Palestinian Authority hates Hamas. You know, Hamas hates like all the rest of the.
Well, it also precipitated October 7th.
That's right, exactly. So right now there are in Hebron, right, the West Bank. There is this guy, a sheikh, 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 who has.
Remember the Frank Zappa record, "Shake Your Booty"?
No, I haven't heard it. But
he's wearing the headdress and he's smoking a cigarette out of this gold holder, and it's "Shake Your Booty." He looked Middle Eastern too. He's Italian.
He looked like it.
Zappa.
Yeah. He had the look. But they had so there's a sheikh named Jabari in Hebron, and the Wall Street Journal just wrote this entire report. They put out this report just a few days ago, and so he has a group of people in Hebron, like a large part of the population behind it, who are sick of this shit. And the reason that they are motivated to form an alliance with Israel is for dignity, economic security, jobs, employment. A lot of that stuff has been cut off since October 7th. Okay, their access. They just want to live their life, and they're willing to negotiate with Israel in the way that I said. They know that they don't really have a lot of cards right now. Israel knows that it has all the cards. They're willing to negotiate something, even if it doesn't mean actual sovereign independence. It just means autonomy. So that idea that, and this is something that Israel's right-wing government, hold on, no. Something that Israel's right-wing government, right, that you've been talking about, has said. They have this idea of sovereignty, of autonomy without sovereignty, right? Right? They have, that was
like separate but equal for the black folks.
Right. Separate but equal for the black folks in a way, but it's more like what they tried to do with Gaza in 2005 when they left, right? So you'll have your autonomy, but you're not going to be sovereign yet. We're going to test it out. Okay, so that's where I think it starts. Now, this guy in Hebron, there's other sheiks in the West Bank, because the West Bank, you know, the Palestinian Authority is extremely, extremely unpopular, okay, who have joined in because people would rather have jobs. They'd rather have, like, Israel. They used to go into Israel. They used to work over there, come back, and they used to make money and live pretty decent lives. Okay, I mean, relatively, right? And they want that. A lot of people there want that, and they don't like the corruption of the Palestinian Authority. They don't like the terrorism of Hamas. So this is what it's gaining. And there's around 700,000 people, right, with these like couple of sheiks who are on board with this idea. So I think that it starts that way. That is already a sign of how people are willing now to make a deal because they know that they don't have the cards. The only thing that's remaining, right, is a guarantee of security for Israel. I think that comes from the Saudis, the Emiratis, the Qataris, and the U.S., because Qatar is a big negotiator. You know, they're in with Hamas, they're in with the Iranians.
Yeah, so far we've had zero boots on the ground and zero actual commitment. They've been meeting, eating hummus in air conditioning.
Mm-hmm.
Right? None of the Arab powers
hosting the Hamas leaders
have done anything really on the ground, and
so
the
far,
Israelis.
So far they haven't. But this thing that happened in Hebron with around 700,000 people is not insignificant there, right? If this is something, right, that starts, and I was surprised when I saw it. If you have, for example, and I'm not saying this is how it's going to happen, but if you have, say, just like you have the United Arab Emirates, if you have the United Emirates of Palestine, even if it's a 3-state solution, right, or something like that, right, where you can potentially have a deal that would even be very cautiously, holding their nose, favorable to the Israeli right-wing government, because.
But when you say state, we need to be precise with our vocabulary here. When you say a 3-state solution, based on the pretext, it's a self-governing body. It's like a country, a state. Mm-hmm. And I'm saying, respectfully, you're smoking crack if that's going to happen even in our lifetimes. So I'm with you that there's a groundswell of Palestinians who are over it. Now, I mean, look at the Israeli population. How many Israeli Arabs are there? Trivia question. I think there's 2 million.
Yeah.
There's 2 million. There's 6-7 million Jews, and there's 2 million Arabs in Israel.
20% of the population.
And a lot of them love it there. You mean they work, they live in harmony, there's no problem. They eat the same food, Israeli salad. We joked about that. What the fuck is an Israeli salad? They eat the same food, they trade, they cohabitate, and everything's more or less cool, right? And I'm not talking about the West Bank or Gaza.
There's some issues. There's some sort of discriminatory.
There's some issues, and I'm not saying it's perfect, but this idyllic kind of construct that Arabs and Jews might someday live in harmony, well, they're living in harmony more or less in the uncontested land of Israel. So I'm with you, and it's not a stretch of the imagination that this enthusiasm for cohabitation, especially when they got their ass kicked, would go further than that into the contested territories. I agree with you. But my problem with this entire scenario that you're painting, it begs the question of who actually holds the cards. And to my point early on, the folks who hold the cards, they've got pocket aces, they've got big slick, and the flop on the board, to use a poker analogy, they're rolling with three of a kind right on the flop. They are hashtag winning right now.
Mm-hmm.
And this is
who's hashtag winning?
Netanyahu, Smotrich, the right-wing Israeli government are winning.
I think there's tiers to that. So I think
there's
that when
always tiers. Yeah. They've gotten their dreams have come true.
Okay? They are.
Let me just take 1 second. You've been talking about this groundswell of Arab support, right, and harmony. I'm not disagreeing with that at all. But I think it's missing the point as to who's in the captain's chair at the moment. And that is the most right-wing extremist government that the state of Israel has ever had. Right. And this extremist right-wing government has never been more powerful in the history of the state of Israel. All of Israel's enemies are for the time being neutralized, including for the time being Iran. So put yourself in their shoes for a second. Instead of looking at the big risk board and thinking about, how the Saudis are thinking and America's reaction to the change of the tide in Israel-American relationships and growing anti-Semitism, just table that for a second. Yeah. And just look at what we're talking about from the point of view of the people who are actually making the decisions, who actually have more power than they've ever even dreamed of, and have positions which are more ideologically extremist than can be imagined, okay? All right. They want what this government wants, and I don't think I'm misspeaking for I don't. The government. No, they want to annex the West Bank. They want all the Palestinians kicked out of Gaza. This is what they want. They're trying to starve them out, okay? They want all of Israel, 100% of the land to be theirs. That is their goal. They have never been closer to that goal than now. Right. So I'm just saying, I'm agreeing with you across the board on every point you're making, but the hole in the argument, the elephant in the room of this Pollyanna view that a two-state solution is now looking good are all these incontrovertible facts that the extremist right-wing government of Israel is hashtag winning. With respect, they're incontrovertible facts, and I'm agreeing with you. Like, they have all the cards. First thing I said here. But they're not the only facts. Okay, so here's the thing. Palestinians, we agreed, position of weakness, take whatever they can get. They need something realistic that's doable. Israel, stronger than... What is Israel going to ask of them? Wait, hold on. What will they ask? Israel's not going to ask... What will power ask of them? Israel's not going to ask anything about... Israel just wants to take over the Palestinians. They want to drive them out of Gaza, right? They want to annex the West Bank. That's what they want. Exactly. Yeah, that's what they want. Okay? Yeah, that's the thing. And they're stronger than... I'm not saying that's going to happen, but that's what they want. So that's what I'm trying to... We agree on what they want. What we're disagreeing on is what is going to happen. So Israel is stronger than ever, but also more isolated than it ever has been. Ever. Okay? Whether if you look at... No. That totally. Is just... It's diplomatically completely isolated. They are isolated. Like, economically, they're isolated. Diplomatically isolated. Always been pretty isolated. And if last I checked, even though the Saudi deal got put on hold by October 7th, and even though the Israelis continue to bomb the shit out of Gaza. Let me explain what I mean by isolated. They're isolated in the sense that I remember when I was growing up, all of Europe strongly in support of Israel. Strongly supported Israel over the Palestinians. All of
the United States, population, Democrats, Republicans, APAC, bipartisan, across the board, strongly in support of Israel. Canada, strongly in support of Israel, right? A lot of these, like that thing has dwindled to not just less than half, but like to only 20 to 30%. They're just fringe.
So how do you think the government will respond to that?
No, wait, hold on.
Saying that they're going to acquiesce.
I'm just defining what I mean.
Okay, I get it.
Okay, so it's more isolated than it's ever been in that sense. All right, so that means that there is going to be leverage. Now, Arab states, that's another factor. Iran's gone, right? Okay, fine.
It's not gone. Again, sweeping motions. Iran is not gone.
Iran is not gone.
900 pounds of 60% enriched uranium sitting somewhere. They're not gone.
Right. They're not. Listen. Okay. So this is another thing. Tangent. Iran's not going to bomb Israel. They wanted to do it. They would have done it.
Yeah, but they still got their mitts in every fucking.
They do. But Assad is in Moscow. Hezbollah is very weak. Okay, the Houthi, everything is. It's just we just talked about this. Okay, so for our definition, and nobody's saying anything's gone. Like you know what I mean by when I say gone. I don't mean that they've been like obliterated.
But there's still. But what I'm getting at is there's still a threat, and the essence of my point is I'm agreeing with what you're saying about Israel's increased isolation.
Mm-hmm.
But what I'm disagreeing with is that this status quo continues to the point where the Palestinians.
I'm trying to.
Hold on. Israel is going to.
Okay, I got
to something.
Let me. I'm just trying to get to the tiers.
Right,
That's what I'm saying. Why it was selective. Okay, so again, Palestinians super weak. They want a realistic path. Israel stronger than ever, but very very isolated, more than it's ever been. Okay, Iran is extremely weakened. All right, including by its own population hates it. Okay, so there's a.
No, they're fragmented. They're fragmented.
Incredibly, very dramatically weakened. Then you've got the Arab states. The Arab states that the U.S. needs a lot more, right, than they need Israel. Those states are smart. They're calculating. They know how to appease. They can afford to give him luxury jets, but they also need. And they're willing to make a deal with Israel. They want the Abrahamic Accords, and they're trying to find a path to do it. They have leverage over Trump in terms of being able to talk to him and trying to get him. And Trump, right now, he's all over the place. He's very erratic.
He's going to stay all over.
No. Hold on.
That's his nature.
It's erratic, but he is in a position where he is able to force a solution. He's got leverage. Over
what solution? Can we add specificity
that's
to
what I'm trying to
say. Because I don't understand what kind of solution you're getting at under the auspices of the most powerful right-wing extremist government.
There's nobody. Okay, so let me put it this way: there's nobody.
You talk about everyone but Israel.
There is nobody.
I don't understand.
Hold on. There's nobody in the United States except for Huckabee, who. I agree. He's over there. He wants a one-state solution. There's nobody, not Trump, not Jared Kushner, not Rubio. There's nobody there who wants a one-state solution where Israel is permanently occupying them. There's no one. They don't want. That's not their.
I'm not so sure about that. Don't speak for them.
I'm not.
That's a bold statement.
I'm not speaking. This is what they have said. They have all said
they have to say that.
They have, yeah, I know, but they need it. They need Saudi Arabia. They need Qatar. This is what I'm trying to say. They need Saudi Arabia. They need the UAE.
We're going in circles because you're saying that you're talking about a solution with it being utterly ambiguous. We can't meaningfully go there unless we talk about what you mean. So
the solution is
specificity.
The solution
is it an autonomous, like self-managing bunch of Arabs in Gaza? Is that what we're talking about?
It is.
And in the West Bank?
So let's talk about
what happens to Hamas?
A lot of this is something
to Israel.
A lot of this is something I'm saying, like in response to you when you say that they want to just take over, annex the West Bank, and to get Gaza on. Hold on. Right. Hear me out. Yeah. Right. So you're saying that they want to do that forever. So first of all, nobody wants That's something, that's what they don't want. Now, what do they want? Okay, they would want an independent Palestinian state and security for Israel. They want that. Now, that may not, okay, happen immediately. But what could happen is that you could have autonomous but not sovereign Palestinian state or states, okay, that the U.S.
Don't say state. Don't say state. It's a contradiction in terms to say autonomous, but not really self-governing, and they could all hang out and eat shawarma, but you're going to have Merkava tanks rolling in the street.
They're not going to. You're not going to have tanks rolling in there. You're just going to have a.
But you're saying state. That's what I mean.
Okay, so let's say,
look, I have no hair. I'm short-circuiting. What the fuck do you mean by state?
So that I'm talking about how it could start. But yeah, they want an independent Palestinian state. Okay, that's what they want.
Who does?
The Saudis, the Qataris, the Egyptians, even though if they don't, they may not like the Palestinians, but their populations.
Yeah, they've wanted that for 7 years.
Now,
what's the news flash here?
The Abrahamic Accords. They all want that. The Saudis want it. The Americans want it. The Americans are the ones who came up with it. Okay, so Trump
but it was rolling with no state. There was no state.
I understand, and now there's gonna. Yeah, but now that there's going to have to be, because the Saudis and the Emiratis and everything, they're not going to, after October 7th. If they wanted to do it, they're like, okay, fuck it, whatever, October 7th, bomb Gaza, whatever you want, we'll continue with our relations. Let's just continue with our deal, right? Supposing they did that. They didn't do that. They said, okay, pause. Okay? Our populations are going to fucking rise up against us like they did in the Arab Spring if we completely destroy, if we let this whole thing continue. There's a genocide happening there. We don't want to see this.
But who has risen up? Look at what Israel's already done. They have bombed 70% of Gaza, like 7 out of 10.
I said that they would. No. I said that if they had continued on the trajectory, why did the Saudis and the Israelis, why did the Saudis stop the negotiations for an alliance right when October 7th happened? Why did Hamas know that they were going to stop it? It's because they knew that
Israel would retaliate 10,000 times to October 7th, and that's exactly what they did.
No, I know. Talking about because
that since October 7th.
Yeah, but what I'm trying to tell you is that they stopped it because they knew that if they continued with the deal, their populations would rise up against them. There would be a lot of discord in their populations. If Saudis continued with that deal while Israel's bombing the shit out of Gaza, then it wouldn't have worked out. Okay, so
there's
they're not gonna
delta though between bombing the shit out of Gaza and statehood.
So
that's why I'm mystified
you know what the accord between the Saudis and the Israelis is contingent on right now. The condition that Saudis have put on it, and they still do. The one thing that they've said, we will continue this, but it has to include a Palestinian state. So that's part of the prerequisite. Okay, and they are talking to Trump. Trump's going up and talking about how much he loves MBS. MBS is like, hey, listen, you want a Nobel Peace Prize? We're going to do it. Here's a Qatari jet. Yeah, Netanyahu, he did that. We're going to give you 3 more jets and also nominate you for the Nobel Peace Prize. Pakistan nominated Trump for a Nobel Peace Prize. You know that, right?
Nobody. I mean, when I say nobody in the Netanyahu right-wing government gives a shit, and they hold the cards right.
So again, we agree that they don't give a shit, but where we disagree is I think that the Netanyahu government is very susceptible to pressure, very susceptible to international international pressure.
Okay, go ahead.
Trump, still struggling for his political future. Once the Gaza war ends, right? Nobody wants him. The majority of the population.
Who says it's going to end?
That's what I'm trying to. He doesn't want it to end. He doesn't want it to end. But if he wants if he wants, you're saying that you're the way that you're talking. You're acting like Netanyahu's got all the cards. Saudis can't do anything, and the U.S. can't do anything. This is a fundamental place where we disagree. I think the Saudis have a tremendous amount of leverage over the U.S., and the U.S. has a tremendous amount of leverage over Netanyahu. Okay, it's just a matter of how they used to exercise it. They're being cautious. Like Trump's had some sort of like outbursts and stuff about it, but that's what I'm trying to tell you. Like, I don't think that Israel wants to stop.
I got it. I completely understand your argument. What I've been trying to do is introduce the point of view of Netanyahu and his right-wing nut jobs. All right,
Yeah.
and you've been stubbornly avoiding talking about it. So we've been dancing around it for a half hour.
I've been agreeing with you.
Wait, hold on. I completely understand your point of view. You've been saying it, which is you have all this growing influence, okay, worldwide to put pressure on Israel to give the Palestinians the independence, autonomy, and ultimately the state that they've been asking for decades. I get it.
Yeah.
But my point, if I could grab the mic, even though I've been interrupting you for a half hour, and express why I think none of that matters.
Okay, there we go. Like, let's talk about
that's what I've been trying to get at, which is they don't give a shit. And the reason they don't give a shit is personal. Netanyahu, the second that he leaves office, he goes to jail. All right? So Netanyahu has the problem that Trump did before he was elected, only 100 times worse. Active bribery investigations. To your point, the population largely hates him. And when the lion roars and Bibi takes credit, then they're like, okay, Bibi's our guy because we need to kick ass. But for the most part, they're like, fuck this guy. He's the one who got us into this mess by neglecting the Gaza front, by letting the Qataris pay billions to Hamas. Bibi's a moron. He's fucked up over and over again. But he's our guy. We need an asshole, and he's our asshole. That's the general view. Right. So that's that. Bibi's not going anywhere.
100% agree on all of that.
Also, all right. And then it's a parliamentary democracy. It's fragmented. And in order for Bibi not to go to jail, he needs Smotrich and he needs all the ideologues. Okay? He needs all of their votes. All right?
Yeah.
And to a certain extent, even though Bibi's been kind of moderate for decades, he doesn't like war and he's been hesitant about making those tough calls, he's all in on this shit for two reasons. The one is it kisses the ass of his right-wing flank, which keeps him out of jail, and it actually excites a majority of the Israeli population who got their ass kicked October 7th, and they're like, shit, we need a strong leader, even if it's this fucking asshole Bibi.
Yeah, wartime leader, yeah.
That's how a lot of Israelis feel, and I don't think I'm talking out of turn.
No, I talked to
so this
Corey.
Is the setup. This is the setup. We're in agreement about this.
Okay.
Now, how long is Bibi and this right-wing nut job, shit show, peanut gallery going to be in control of Israel? That's a big question. We haven't talked about that. It's contingent on Israel internal politics, right? There's pressure coming from the outside. I'm with you 100%.
Not just the outside.
But here's what I've been barking about.
His own military generals. His own two former prime ministers.
They all know Gaza is Vietnam. Okay,
yeah.
You got young Israeli boys and girls coming back in boxes every day now. All right, it's Vietnam. All right, they know this, and they're staying in it for the same reason or similar reasons that we stayed in Vietnam, right? Because you've already invested so much, and you need to keep the war going.
Sunken costs.
For a number of reasons. All right, we're cool with that. My point of view here is since the founding of the state of Israel, all right, you've had all of these Arab states around them wanting to sweep them into the sea, right? Like death to Israel, death to America. It's been an existential threat, no doubt about it. Fast forward to 2025. We're in July of 2025. As we began this conversation, Israel has never been in a more advantageous position militarily.
Correct.
Right? Now, what do you do back to the poker analogy, when you've got trips come up on the flop? What's a good strategy? You got to push everyone out fast as you can because it's a drawing game. So you go all in. You go, here's my pot. And if anyone's left in there, then you narrow their odds and you have a higher probability for your own success. By analogy, Israel is holding pocket aces right now, and an ace came up on the flop, and they're going all in. They've been waiting decades for this opportunity to sweep the Palestinians out of Gaza and annex the West Bank. Now, I'm not talking about all Israelis. I'm talking about the Israelis who are in power right now.
Yeah.
So if you have pocket aces and an ace comes up on the flop, you're not going to negotiate no matter how much pressure you're going to feel, because this is your one and only opportunity in arguably a century to make your power move. Smotrich knows that, Netanyahu knows that, and they also have, frankly, a gullible, transactional, wishy-washy, unstrategic American president who tariff 80%, tariff 20%. Oh, plane from Qatar. I'm bringing peace to Gaza. I'll solve Ukraine in a day. The Trump doctrine is emotional vacillation based on whether or not your dick is hard at the moment. That's the Trump strategy. And tariffs. Everything else is wide fucking open. So that what you're saying though adds to the urgency of Israel making its power move right now, because they will not get another chance at it.
Right.
They won't. They know this. This is it. And Trump is in power now until 2028. And who knows how JD will feel about it, or if AOC wins, right? That's going to be, to your point, that's going to be a whole different situation. And the point of our conversation right now is Israel in a position where it is going to bend to pressure from France and Saudi Arabia to not go all in on this magic hand that they've been dealt from God to get the Palestinians the fuck out of Gaza, annex the West Bank, and waste Iran. It's not what I want, but that's just what the cards suggest. And why would they not? Why would Netanyahu and the right-wing government possibly make meaningful concessions? They will make micro concessions, ceasefire. Let's talk about Palestinian statehoods while they starve the shit out of them or concoct new ways to annex more and more territory in the West Bank. Right. That's all I'm saying. I completely agree with all your points.
Hey, listen.
It doesn't make sense because they have the cards now.
I agree with you on all of that, on everything they want. The fact that this is their main chance, that one opportunity they got, they're going to want to take it. Okay. The difference, I think I can articulate the difference between our positions is you think that they can do this. I think that they cannot. So,
do what? Let's be specific. Do what?
Annex the West Bank and drive everything out of Gaza and make it one big state that they just hold indefinitely and forever, and that's what Israel is from here onwards. Okay,
right.
So that's so whenever, right? So that's that idea that you think that they can do it. We both agree.
I'm saying that they want to do it.
Oh, listen, we're both saying they want to do it. I don't think there's any.
But my point though is, if they don't do it now, they never will.
Oh, yeah.
My point. That's it. I'm not saying that that's going to happen.
We agree. We
why
agree on that.
Negotiate now.
Okay, so let me just repeat what you said. We both agree that this is what they want to do. Every word you said about what the Netanyahu and the right-wing government wants to do. Israel's super powerful, has a lot of cards, the aces, everything. We agree that they have this one opportunity, and they don't want to squander it. Okay, and we also agree, right? If they had their way, they would do it. Okay.
Check. Yeah. You know those green boxes, those little emojis?
Yeah.
Check. All right.
Now, where I think that there is a disagreement is that you think that they will get away with this. Okay?
No, I didn't say that.
Then we agree completely. I don't think they're going to get away with it at all. I don't think they can.
I think they're going to give it their best shot.
Oh, 100%. I think they're going to give it their best shot.
What are we arguing about?
We're arguing about the fact that all I'm saying is I don't think it's going to work. I think right now they're in this position where they're asymmetrically powerful. Palestine they can negotiate, right. But there are other players here who also have really good cards. Okay,
not as good internally.
Better, Spitz, and this is a matter of perspective.
That's where we disagree, buddy.
I'll tell you what. Israel has its own sort of regional goals that it wants to do. It wants to take over this land. It'll get it. I mean, that goal is kind of right. But there's the Arab states over there. They've got much bigger goals. They've got Vision 2030. They want to be one of the world's like multipolar superpowers. They want America on their side. They want to win over the Republicans and the Democrats. They want to do what Israel had for the longest time. And with all due respect to Netanyahu, I believe I'm saying that, but with all due respect to that guy is known to squander opportunity after opportunity. Many times that guy has had the cards, okay, and he's fucked it up. Like, again, he had the kind of support from...
But hold on. All the opportunities had to do with giving the Palestinians more power.
No,
that's not an opportunity. Illustrate an opportunity.
No. You misunderstood me. That's not the opportunity I'm talking about. I'm saying, for example, he had the opportunity, right? He had opportunities. He had full bipartisan, unwavering, unconditional support from the United States for Israel. Okay,
that's secondary to support internally with his peeps.
Yeah, he had support internally from his people too.
Not anything from his point of view.
No, I know, but he squandered it. Now he's only got support from like less than 50% of the United States.
He doesn't give a shit. I don't think.
We're conflating two things, Spitz. We're talking about whether he has the support or not, and whether he gives it. We agree.
But you're defining squandering in your terms. We agree. Define it in his terms.
We agree that he doesn't give a shit, right? So he doesn't think he's squandering. He's not, in his opinion, he's not squandering anything, right?
He's not squandering, buddy. You're a liberal Canadian, and you're saying that this guy is squandering something.
We lay it out again. We both agree on what he wants to do. We both agree that this is the shot that he's going to take. We both agree he's going to go all out to try and do it. The difference is
fist pump you through the TV.
Difference is I don't think it's going to work because I think that the Arab states over there, right, have more leverage over the U.S. and more ability to influence the U.S. than Israel does. I also think that they have better cards. Okay, that's where we disagree, I think. So I think that they will be, I think if he wants to do it, I just don't think that in 2025, in the world we live in right now, that it is possible for Israel to be this isolated and be able to take over the West Bank and commit this like massive atrocity. It would be a huge atrocity if they actually did that. Because they don't have that situation where all the Arab states around them want to destroy them. Like the Palestinians do, the Iranians did. Qatar doesn't. The UAE doesn't. Saudi Arabia doesn't. Sudan doesn't. Like, these are all countries that they've formed Abraham.
We're in agreement, and we're kind of recycling the same thing. So let's do a thought experiment, okay? Because
that original justification isn't there. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I got you. Let's shift gears a little bit and do a thought experiment, okay? Yeah. You are Bibi Netanyahu, and I'm going to play Bibi, and I could do it. If you imagine a wig on me, I'm like this Jew boy, all right? So maybe
oh my God,
I
can't do that to you. That's
harder for you. All right. So you can go first or I'll go first. And let's stop with this violent agreement that we're in about what people think about Israel and what you and I both think about Bibi. Because we're going around and round. The essence is, what is Israel probably going to do? Okay? Given all of this. So
probably wants to do or going to do?
let's just be predictive here. You're BB. I'm
Okay.
BB. Okay, imagine me like if they have those TikTok little things with the
Yeah,
wig.
with that little sort of like
I could actually be passable, which is kind of scary, right? All right.
sociopathic look.
All
Yeah.
right.
No, you
So
don't.
I'm BB. All right. I'm Prime Minister of Israel. I got the right flank leaning down, right? My poll numbers are oscillating, and I got, the cops knocking on my door because they're going to take me away if I'm out of office.
Yeah.
All right, that's the context. Now, if I'm Bibi, this will provide a little bit of clarity, I think, for our tete-a-tete, mano-a-mano here. If I'm Bibi, I'm aware of every fucking thing that you've just said. The Arab Street, the U.S., Europe. I know that Israel is more marginalized than ever before. I know that I have a limited runway now. The clock is ticking on Israel
Yeah.
because bipartisan support they're even losing young Jews. I mean, I lived in New York, and the niece of a girlfriend was out there, Jewish girlfriend was out there protesting for Hamas.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I get it. I'm intimately aware of the schism within even the American Jewish community, and so is Bibi. Okay, so the point I'm making is the clock is ticking on Israel right now because of all the reasons that you say. I'm agreeing with you. So my question is, within this limited runway with the clock ticking, what's their strategy? What is Bibi going to do? So okay, so I'm Bibi. Now here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to kiss ass. I'm going to burrow my bald head as far up Donald Trump's asshole as I can. That's strategy number one. And Trump is duplicitous. He changes his mind. He's transactional. He forgets. But in the moment, the Donald's butthole is right here. I'm in there. All right. That's rule number one. So if Trump wants peace, I'm going to give it to him on a silver platter. There's going to be an imminent ceasefire. It's going to happen. And you agree. I'm
Yeah.
going to pull the IDF from areas of Gaza. But here's the thing. Just like the Arabs do and Trump does, I'm going to play both sides of this issue. I'm going to be kissing Trump's ass. My envoys are going to be in Riyadh negotiating. And I'm going to be friendly to all the Sunnis playing ball. But I'm going to continue the relentless abuse of Palestinians in the West Bank. I'm going to keep Pac-Manning more and more land in the West Bank. And I'm going to do it under the cover of night. Instead of being obvious about this shit, I am just going to grab and take as much land as I can underneath the radar. I'm going to suppress the media so my friends don't find out about it, so Donald doesn't find out about it. I'm going to turn the screw on the West Bank, and there's going to be a permanent military presence in Gaza. Sorry, Charlie. After October 7th, there's no fucking way that they're going to be autonomous. It's not going to happen. But I will pay lip service. I will have meetings between my people and their people, and we're going to talk about autonomy and an independent state, and we're going to go back to the bullshit that's been the last 80 years of negotiation, but it's all going to be a shit show piece of theater. And it's all to kick the can down the road as we work our way through more and more land in the West Bank, and as we put a vice grip on Gaza, and then we see what happens. Mm-hmm. So will there be this big unity? I don't know. That's what I want. That's what the righties want. But we're going to head in that direction while being sensitive to everything that you have just said. All the pressure, the negotiation, the turn of the tide against Israel. We know what's going on here, and we're going to play ball, and we're going to fake it until we own all of it. And that's my strategy. It's a variation of kicking the can down the road, right?
That's
It's like,
been the strategy for decades, actually, since
and
the
it's going to continue, Ali. There's going to
yeah.
be
And
no
now
real
it can.
difference, except
There's an
there's going to be
opportunity now. Yeah,
more of this, more smoke and mirrors and bullshit.
yeah.
And
I have
that's
the
going to be
excuse now.
BB
I've had
strategy.
October
And
7th.
lastly, icing on the cake, and I'll be done. We're going to bomb the shit out of Iran over and over again. Do you think that this was the end? No, no, no. The second the Iranians kind of poke up, back up, and look around,
Whack 'em.
kind of like, the springtime, what's the animal that comes up?
Groundhog.
Yeah, the groundhog. Every time the Iranian groundhog comes up, boom!
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
anything there's and the Mossad is everywhere. Every time there's a hint, where's the 60% enriched uranium? Boom! Israel's going to own the skies of Iran. Israel's going to annex more and more territory in the West Bank, and Israel's going to continue to squeeze the shit out of Gaza. And that's not going to change for as long as Bibi stays out of jail. That's my prediction. Did I say complete takeover? No. But that's my prediction for Israeli strategy, at least as long as Trump's in power.
Mm-hmm.
And with that, I pass the mic to you.
Okay, so Trump, again, is erratic. He has people around him. Whoever kisses his ass better gets what they want. Okay? If there's multiple people trying to do it, whoever does it better and has something that I want, I'm a transactional person. Part of the deal, I like making deals. I want to have a legacy. Everyone treats me very, very unfairly. It's just not fair. Obama got a
Ali, you're Bibi Netanyahu.
Oh, I'm Bibi Netanyahu?
I want to get away from talking about fucking Trump and
Oh, I thought we were playing where you were.
No, no, no. I want you to be BB because otherwise we're just going to be talking in circles for another hour.
If I'm BB, I'm thinking at 100%.
No. I played BB. That's what I think BB wants.
I'm trying to tell you that I would say exactly everything you said as BB. I'm a violent agreement that that's exactly what he wants to do.
Okay, then what are we arguing about?
What's going to happen? If I said it before. We totally agree on what he wants. We just disagree on how it's going to play out.
Okay, then how is it going to play out? I mean, and I get.
But we're going again in circles again.
But what is actually going to happen in Israel? Stay. Can we not talk about Trump?
So
and the
there's
EU,
one motivation.
Fucking Saudi Arabia.
The only thing.
Talk about Israel and Palestine.
So, well, we can't do that because the reason that Bibi's not going to be able to do what he wants to do is because of Trump and the Arab countries.
Let's just tacitly assume that that's the case. What's going to happen on the ground in Israel and Palestine and Gaza?
Trump isn't a factor, if the U.S. is not a factor, and if the Arab countries are not a factor, then what you're saying...
It can't be, but they're forcing something. Let's
yeah,
say
they're going to. This is the only thing I would add to what you said was that I don't want to go to jail. I'm BB. I do not want to fucking go to jail. So I need to keep this thing going, okay, because this is what's going to keep me in power. Okay, if there's another election, if something happens, it's all very, very risky. We have to stay in a wartime state. We have to stay in this, okay, we got to survive. We got to prevent never again. This is how we're going to make it work. Okay, so I have to, because I can't go to jail. I can't do it. So I'm doing this until I fucking die. Right?
Okay. So what happens on the ground? Because Trump wants the Nobel Prize. Saudi Arabians are putting pressure because the Abrahamic Accords to tie the knot on that. You've outlined all of these pressure points. From my BB point of view, they don't impact significantly what happens on the ground.
And
you
from
you have a different point
I have
of
a
view.
different view.
Please elucidate what happens on the ground.
So that is the disagreement. Okay, everything we agree, again, just let me articulate.
Tell me what's happening.
I'm trying to tell you everything. Yeah. So what's going on in Gaza, what's happening here, right, is influenced by outside factors, not just what Bibi wants.
I got it. It's coming. Tell me what's going on the ground. Fuck the outside factors.
What's going on? Well, I don't understand that. I don't
They're
understand the
going to
question.
happen.
I don't understand the question. What's
The question is, we're in agreement that there's going to be pressure points from the outside. How many times can we agree about that? We
okay?
don't know the degree to which the pressure points are
So
going to be
what is
exerted.
it? What are you
So
asking
I
me?
said, my point of view is there are going to be pressure points, but it's not going to significantly influence Israeli policy to make a significant difference. That's my point of view. You have a different point of view. So what is going to happen? I said that the Israelis are going to continue to Pac-Man their way through the West Bank. Then they're going to continue to squeeze Gaza, and there will be an IDF presence in Gaza indefinitely. And the Iranian airspace will be
No,
Israel.
I heard you. I listen.
So what's your vision? What's your vision?
So I'm trying to tell you. Like I'm trying to tell you. I
All
don't
right.
think. I think that that's exactly what he wants, and I don't think that the Arab states and the U.S. will let it happen. I think the Arab states will be talking to Israel in their back channels. The Arab states.
I got it.
Hold
But
on.
what happens on the ground? I
But
just told you what Gaza is going to be
what
like.
happens? What happens on the ground?
What's Gaza going to be like?
Well, what's going to happen with Gaza is that Gaza is going to be governed by something that is not Hamas. Could be the Egyptians and the Qataris. Okay.
Now we're talking.
Okay. Or there could be like a Palestinian election. It could be an emirate. It could be whatever. Okay. The West Bank. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So I mean, basically, it's not going to be taken over by Israel. The Arab states are not going to let that happen.
Now we're cooking with kerosene.
That's
our disagreement.
The West Bank, right? Hebron and some of the areas around there, right? They have this coalition of sort of sheikhs who are coming in. They negotiate with Netanyahu. They're like, we want our jobs back. We want to be able to go in. We're going to guarantee you security. Okay, we'll talk to Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia says, we like this Jabari guy. We vouch for him. Netanyahu says, no, fuck it. I'm taking this land. And then they go to the U.S. and the U.S. is like, hey, Bibi, I want a Nobel Prize. You're going to have to fucking take this deal. Okay, so they take that deal.
What deal?
The deal with these sheiks in Hebron, right?
So what are they going to get?
They're going to get, so what they want is they want an autonomous state. They're like, okay, we will demilitarize. Okay, you can still oversee, but we want an autonomous state. We want to be like Gaza was in 2005. Okay,
now we're talking some.
Yeah, but we don't want to. We're not going to build tunnels. We're not going to do that. Right? You can have people coming in and checking once in a while, like the IAEA does for the atomic shit in Iran. They come and check. We're not going to do that. All right, that's the starting point. Other states see how that's going. They're like, wow, there's other cities in the West Bank. They're like, we hate the fucking Palestinian Authority. But what this Jabari's guy's doing, these guys have jobs. They're just building a new mall. They've got new schools happening, all this shit. So, we want to do the same fucking thing. Same thing. Now, with time, what happens is that this sort of mindset spreads. The Saudis have told Israel that this is what we need. Our people want this. Now we can have our Abrahamic Accords. All right. What we're going to do, your thing, what you want is security. We're going to give you security. And then Netanyahu's going to be like, no, I don't want this. I want to take this as our land, Judea, Samaria. It's in our Likud constitution and charter and all that shit. And then other people, even the Israelis, are going to be like, listen, just shut the fuck up, all right? You already screwed up enough. This our opinion's going down the drain. These countries, they're doing okay, right? Iran is not an influence anymore. The Saudis are coming in. The Qataris are coming in. They don't want any bullshit to happen there. They don't want any conflict or any fights or killing or anything because they want an economic relationship. And that stuff fucks up economic relationships. So we don't want that. And that's how it starts. And eventually, I think the situation right now, all of the things are in play. Israel's got a lot of power, but isolated. Palestinians are extremely weak. Iran is near obliterated. Saudis and the Qataris have more influence and leverage on the U.S., like the Qataris and the UAE, than ever. Okay, Trump wants his ass kissed, and he wants a Nobel Peace Prize, and he wants a legacy, and he wants to bring peace in the Middle East. Okay, wants to do that. Jared Kushner is more buddies with MBS.
Yeah, we got all that. We're on.
Yeah. Situation is, and this is what I said right in the beginning. The situation is ripe right?
But that's what I was asking for, specificity around your vision.
But you
as
get
to
it now.
what this means. And thank you for that. And I find that very wonderful even to hear.
Okay,
That,
awesome.
the sheiks in Hebron are like, we're gonna open up a Target and a Starbucks, and there's gonna be a mall with the shawarma joint, right? And we're gonna play pickleball in the
Exactly.
120-degree
Beautiful.
heat, and we're all gonna get along because we're tired of all this shit, and we know you kicked our ass anyway, and we're gonna behave. And in exchange for us behaving and not building tunnels and not arming ourselves and not plotting your destruction, we are going to leave you alone, acknowledge that you can exist too, and we'll be separate, but we'll be good neighbors. And maybe, just maybe, if we get along for a while, we'll talk about self-government, maybe, and borders and stuff like
they
that.
will have.
But we're gonna crawl before we walk.
They'll
And
still
for
have
now,
self-government.
we're just gonna play pickleball, okay?
They'll still have self-government. They may not have complete sovereignty. So it'll be like Gaza in 2006, right?
Okay, I love that. That warms my heart that that's a viable solution.
The ingredients are there. The ingredients are there. But anyway, I think
I'm in it to win it. I mean, I don't like the nut jobs in Israel, and I've been barking for an hour as to the Israeli extremist position, but I don't believe it. And I think the vision of what you've shared, which is the Hebron little group with the pickleball, and in Gaza they clean everything up, and billions of aid come in, and they rebuild, and they're gonna put an Abercrombie and Fitch in in the city there, and then they're gonna all be in Rafah. In Rafah, there's gonna be like a McDonald's again, and that's gonna be nice.
I
So
think
I think that would be nice. I don't necessarily think that that's feasible, but that's not mutually exclusive with my vision of the Israelis sneakily trying to kick ass.
All I'm saying is
they could do both.
I think it's I'm not saying I don't think it's all that feasible either, but I just think it's more feasible now than it has been before, purely because of the asymmetry of power at this point. Is that Israel's up on its high horse justifiably. The Palestinians are not on their high horse anymore because they've had a reality. Okay, we're clear on that. I think we'll continue this at some point. I got to run. It's my brother's birthday.
No, I understand. Thank you for the debate. And I think we came full circle, which is, can we have Palestinian autonomy and nut job right-wing Israeli extremism too? Can they coexist? And your point is that they will have to. And my point is that it might be expedient actually for both parties to fake it until they can make it.
They fake it until they make it. Yeah,
that's a great place to stop.
And so coming to you from Israel and then from the Palestinian Emirates, Hebron, Ramallah, Nablus, and Gaza. That's it. That's the United States of Palestine.
yeah, ain't gonna happen. But I just think
that's nice, great, doesn't it?
That's great cover for Israel's annexation of all Arab lands.
I will register my disagreement here for the final time.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for joining. Thanks for listening and watching to Bald and Bloviating. And this will be where all podcasts are streamed, and we'd love to hear your comments. And we should take video clips out of this one too.
There's only one thing I'm going to leave with, and I have to tell Spitz that's going to piss him off even more than anything I could have possibly said in this podcast. Can I?
Piss off who, me?
Yeah, I'm going to tell you something now. Leave you.
Go ahead.
Took the kids to see Coldplay last night live, and it was a very good show. It was really good.
I interrupted you so many fucking times during this podcast that it was all fucking negated with what you just did to me.
Spitz, not a fan of Coldplay. I think they're great. I do like
I'm
it. Great song.
hyperventilating. Of course you do.
Anyway, man. No, that was a lot
Yeah.
of fun. Thank you.
Thanks so much, buddy. It
And
was loads of fun.
this is really good. I think yeah, it's good. This is good. It's everything's changing a lot, and I love hearing what you have to say about it as always. Right.
Yeah.
So
And it's fun having you, and I'll come on your show. And
yes.
then you can interrupt me. And I'm
Can
gonna
I cross post this? I can bring back my
I'm gonna
podcast.
go see a band you hate. What band do you hate that I love? Like you hate all that black metal shit I listen to, right? Like
no. Are you kidding? No, I love the black metal. I'm not. I don't listen to it regularly.
What about EDM? Do you like Armin van Buuren and all those like?
Oh no. You can do that. Yeah, that's a.
All right, cool. I'm gonna go to a rave before our next podcast, just to piss you off.
Yeah. Okay.
Right,
Sounds good,
buddy. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Bye.